Were the graphics of the Atari Jaguar games any good at all? I've been asked that question so many times, especially in comparison to the other popular consoles that were available during the same period, for instance, the Sega Saturn. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm a huge supporter of the Jaguar and have played almost all of the games on the system. So, to answer the question once and for all, join me in this part 3 of the Retro Gaming Boss showcase of games with the best graphics on the Atari Jaguar. Each of the games that I'll highlight in this video took advantage of the console's hardware in unique ways, making them extraordinary examples of 90s gaming tech. Just as in the earlier parts 1 and 2 of my graphics showcase, I'm not claiming that the following titles are the system's best games. We'll leave that topic for another video. But they all demonstrate the power and flexibility of the console's graphics capability. Since I provided a rundown of the Jaguar's hardware capabilities in earlier videos, let's get right into the games. But before we dive in, I want to invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is always here for a quick retro gaming break. I really appreciate your support since it's the only way that YouTube will highlight my videos, so please help me to grow. First up, we've got to talk about Missile Command 3D from 1995, a reimagining of the classic Missile Command arcade game from 1980. This title came out swinging on the Jaguar with full 3D graphics and built upon the original's simple concept and turned it into a standout experience. I have to admit, when this was released, I was a bit skeptical. Before playing it, I thought to myself, man, it seems like Atari is really scraping the bottom of the barrel of their library. But fortunately, I put my ignorance aside and gave it a try, and wow, was I impressed. Far from the simple vector graphics of the arcade experience, the Jaguar really flexes its muscle in this one. In Missile Command 3D, you take control of anti-ballistic missile defenses set near the ground level. Looking up far into the atmosphere, your stomach drops as you see endless volleys of ICBMs screaming down toward you on their ballistic arcs. The sense of perspective and scale it gives is really impressive. The dynamic camera angles and lens flare effects put you front and center in the high-stakes battle to save the planet. The action really spikes your pulse as you blast away to defend the cities below, aiming your interceptors just right to lead the inbound missiles a bit to score a direct hit. The introduction of 3D graphics makes this an entirely fresh experience, including some mega boss battles at the end of some stages. After having played it quite a bit now, I actually have to say I think it's one of the Jaguar's best. Another interesting tidbit, the developer Virtuality had agreed to create a VR headset for Atari alongside their development of this title. But while the game was released during the Jaguar's original run, the much anticipated VR headset was ultimately cancelled, leaving Missile Command 3D as the only game that would have been compatible with the peripheral. Regardless, if you haven't played this one yet and are a fan of the console, you really owe it to yourself to give it a try. Next up is Atari Karts, an obvious Super Mario Kart clone, but with greatly improved graphical finesse and presentation. Released in 1995, Atari Karts was a vibrant showcase of the Jaguar's visual capabilities, with crisp environments, stunning backgrounds, and multiple layers of parallax scrolling. Yeah, I hear all those Nintendo fanboys saying, actually, it isn't really a 64-bit game, it's just a copy of Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. Seriously? Maybe you need to get your eyes checked.
Are you out of your goddamn mind? Do you want to go to war, Malaki? Because we could go to war.
All kidding aside, I get tired of hearing stuff like this from people who've probably never even played Atari Karts. Maybe it's just too easy for nostalgia to somehow blind the objective difference between these games. For anyone who's curious, just take a few minutes to put the graphics in both games side by side, and you'll immediately spot the visual improvements on the Jaguar. Now, I'm not bashing the Super Nintendo or Super Mario Kart. I personally think they're both great. I'm just saying that the natural progression of technology leads to an improved graphics here. There's nothing wrong with that. So in my mind, Atari Karts should actually be applauded for showcasing the excellent visuals that the Jaguar could crank out. So to sum it up, this game's arcade-style controls, multiplayer racing, quirky characters, and gorgeous environments make it an absolute blast to play. In the number 3 spot, we have 05, a space shooter developed by Caspian Software and released exclusively for the Atari Jaguar in 1997. This game was one of the last licensed releases published for the Jaguar after Atari discontinued the console in 1996. Despite its late release, 05 really steps it up with polygon graphics, a slamming techno soundtrack, and intense action. However, its steep difficulty curve make it less accessible as a game, and kind of affected my overall enjoyment. Nevertheless, 05 features some of the most impressive visuals seen on the Jaguar, namely its particle effects, warp sequences, and a battle of attrition with a massive capital ship. The game's different play modes include first-person gunner missions and levels where you control the ship from a third-person point of view. But the real standout had to be the wicked hard trench run levels, with the blistering pace and insane difficulty. The game really shows off the Jaguar's horsepower, even though it came out too late in the console's life to change its ultimate fate. And moving along to number 4, Towers 2 Enhanced Stargazer Edition is actually a remake of the original RPG title that was first released on the Jaguar back in 1995. The Enhanced Stargazer Edition was created by Songbird Productions and released in 2023, a full 28 years after the original. This new version brings much-needed quality of life improvements and upgrades to the UI and graphics, but don't let its superficial resemblance to Wolfenstein 3D fool you. This game packs a huge amount of detail and complexity. From the variety of dungeons to the diverse characters, weapons, armor, and magic, it's a really solid first-person RPG experience that's become a bit of a collector's item given the rarity of the physical cartridges. Definitely worth a closer look if you can get your hands on a copy. The visuals are reminiscent of the excellent RPG Shining the Holy Ark on the Sega Saturn. One feature that really tapped into the Jaguar's power is its use of light sourcing, which helps improve the atmosphere in the dungeons. Some great texture work also makes this one a real gem. It's just awesome seeing developers, even today, working hard to keep the Jaguar's legacy alive with releases like this. So kudos to Songbird Productions. Keep up the excellent work.
Good evening.
Now real quick, if you're enjoying this content, I've linked a playlist in the description below that includes the Atari Jaguar Graphics Showcase Parts 1 and 2, along with all of my other retro gaming videos that you might enjoy. So why not check it out and stick around for a while. For number 5, we have Ultra Vortek, which is clearly one of the most visually unique fighting games on the Jaguar. Also released in 1995, it sports digitized characters, some pretty good fighting animations, and ultra-vivid backgrounds. This game really took advantage of the Jaguar's massive color palette and 2D capabilities to produce such shiny and beautiful graphics. Of course, it was a Mortal Kombat clone, and while the controls and gameplay left something to be desired, it did feature some creative fatalities, which were still a pretty novel thing back when it was released. Like we saw in Kasumi Ninja in the prior graphics showcase video, Ultra Vortec is all about its imaginative and detailed backgrounds. Even though they aren't the same photorealistic style like Kasumi Ninjas, they are more fantastical and sci-fi inspired, with bold and well-animated stages that really pop. And that creepy-looking eye staring down at you from the top of the screen by the health meters, and that demonic-sounding announcer voice made this one super distinctive. As a side note, a little appreciated fact is that Ultra Vortec was the only officially released game that was capable of supporting the Jaguar voice modem peripheral for online multiplayer action. It's just too bad that the modem was never released commercially by Atari, so we never got to experience that innovation at the time. So before we wrap up, you know I've got to add a couple of honorable mentions into the mix. The first is Hammer of the Gods by Phobos Games. This is an unfinished hack-and-slash title set in a stunning medieval environment. Despite still being a work in progress, from what I've seen so far, the visuals are grade A. Reminiscent of Sega's Golden Axe, this one looks to have some fun swordplay action with a hand-drawn art style that reminds me of graphic novels and kinda has a cel-shaded animation look. Its massive sprites, vivid backgrounds, and multiple layers of parallax really impress. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this one gets completed soon and would absolutely love to play it. And finally, I want to highlight the often overlooked graphics seen in the basketball game White Men Can't Jump. While its 2-on-2 Street Hoops gameplay wasn't as popular as the excellent NBA Jam arcade port, its graphics really tapped into the Jag's powerful ability for sprite scaling, giving it additional depth and an appealing 2.5D presentation.
Get off me!
Chill out. Get off me, chump.
Watch it!
Ooh, hands on the rim.
So as we've seen, the Atari Jaguar wasn't just a console with powerful hardware and innovative games. It was a platform that broke through the boundaries of what was possible in both 2D and 3D gaming back in the mid-90s. But that's just what I think. What other Jaguar games have the best graphics? Do I need to make a part 4 of the showcase to include your favorites? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to hit that like button to help me out. And if you're new here, welcome to the channel, and I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe. And don't forget to check out parts 1 and 2 of the Jaguar Graphics Showcase on my channel. Alright everyone, this is the Retro Gaming Boss signing out, reminding you to keep your games old school, and to keep on supporting the timeless Atari Jaguar and all of its great games. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.